Why is it easier to pull off a police action to arrest Maduro than it is to pull off a police action to arrest some, communists throwing firebombs in the Pacific Northwest? Yeah. Now, one guy, James Kilpatrick, who's a great Twitter account, made a very good point, I think, which was, look, one of the reasons we saw this action taken is that ultimately Trump has more sovereignty in South America than he does in the United States. That as the executive, he has more control over the deployment of the military and successful military operations than he does even managing things inside his own country. And so it literally is easier to go into another country, invade it, and take its leader than it is to arrest a few communists somewhere in Chicago. And I got to say, I don't think he's entirely wrong about that fact, which, as we pointed out many times, discussions on sovereignty came up quite a bit there. One of the more interesting developments might be that Donald Trump has more sovereignty in South America than he does in New York or LA.
Yeah, I mean, this was sort of the thing that I was thinking about watching the press conference. He said that it was like a campaign of sovereignty, or a campaign about sovereignty and peace. And I looked at it and I did the whole, like blink back, look back kind of, reaction. I was just really, it was an interesting choice of phrase, because the administration, and I mean, he campaigned on, the White House tweeted the words remigration with a photo of Donald Trump just a couple of days ago, which, I mean, rhetorically is great. We're now probably going to see more deportations emerge now that, the DHS has the budget that it can to engage in these activities. I think there's a lot more, obviously, that this administration could do, and then Secretary Noem could easily do more and work with private entities to help house migrants and get them out of here, especially those that are here illegally. It was good to see that Secretary Noem had basically eliminated temporary protective status for the Venezuelans that are here. And I think that this is great rhetoric going forward to say that the administration has now given them the opportunity to go back to the nation that they love. And if, all of these videos and social media posts from Venezuelan expats that are living here or here under sort of visa status are celebrating that Maduro is gone and these like decades and lifetimes of socialist or left-wing rule is over, then we should be doing everything to patriotically repatriate, democratic or, freedom-loving Venezuelans back to their homeland, because that is what, a good neighbor should do. If we're going to have any kind of good neighbor policy of the 21st century, it's that we're against communism and that we want to repatriate you back to your home country to make it great again. That would be a great messaging for the administration. And on the question of sovereignty, yeah, it's absolutely true, because in the midst of all this, I know that DHS has started doing some door-to-door arrests and investigations and have already arrested some and have begun putting people in through the court system when it comes to, say, the Somali daycare fraud, thanks to Nick Shirley and other investigative reporting. But I mean, that's an easy layup to say that, listen, we are concerned about sovereignty abroad. We're also concerned about sovereignty here. And it's very hard to say that Tim Walz or anyone working in the state of Minnesota has sovereignty when you are beholden to a tiny ethnic minority that has managed to not only change the state's flag to reflect it being a colony of Somalia, but has also allowed the mayor of Minneapolis to be speaking in their language and not English most of the time while eating their food, as if he is being held hostage by actual Somali pirates. And so while Minneapolis remains to be the Captain Phillips of America, it requires us now to seriously look at, okay, if we can take out Maduro, the question now really remains to be, how do we liberate those other places? And we've seen a lot of various conservative commentators make the same claim that, they want regime change in New York, they want regime change in Minneapolis. And I know that it's an entirely different ballgame because those are domestic operations. There are the courts that have, I think, done a great job at hamstringing the administration. But if the rhetoric out of the administration is to be true, and they have a winning strategy, we saw it the first 3 months of 2025, which is to do a million things at once at 99 miles an hour and do not give the left a second to react, organize, or fundraise. Because the more they have time to get on track with messaging or to create these ethnic solidarity blocks, or basically to openly say that they will riot on racial reasons, then all that does is kind of prove the point that others had been making, which is that it's easier to question the sovereignty of a foreign power that we can target militarily than it is to question the open ethnic and colonial mindset that is built on irredentist racial politics, whether it's with reclaiming the Southwest for Mexico, or colonizing the rest of Minnesota, or doing things for our people. And it doesn't just apply to those two specific examples, but it applies to a lot more. I think that this would be a great way to take the Venezuelan victory, if you want to call it that, and use it to say, we will help patriotically repatriate in humanitarian ways to remigrate you back home so your own country can be great. Now, how effective or what line of attack they'll use remains to be seen. But I do agree with you is that, like, okay, we can easily commit an amazing military operation with no American casualties. That's amazing after months of planning and research and investigation and all the logistical support that goes into that. I think now with this, big, beautiful bill budget, I think that they can easily, or they should be moving to do the same here in the United States.
Yeah, it would be nice if we went from invade the world, invite the world, to invade the world and send them back. That would be.
I mean, that would be the best policy. Would be to if we're gonna make the claim that we're liberators, we're gonna free the world and repatriate the world. I think that that's a very great course of action that this administration could do. It would solidify the American demographic situation in a way that, listen, there are other places for you to go that don't have to be here, and that at the same time, if we're already having net negative migration, which is great for the United States, then there's a lot of opportunities going forward. And like we said, we're only a couple of days out since the strike. We're only a few days into the new year. And so God only really knows what this administration is going to do. But I certainly hope it is to double its efforts on repatriating and remigrating those who shouldn't be here back to their home countries.
Now, Matthew, I've done some noticing. And one of the things I noticed is that when our State Department was run by people whose ancestors were from Eastern Europe, we went to war in Eastern Europe. And then once we had people who were from Latin America, or ancestors were from Latin America, run the State Department, we fought wars in Latin America. I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence, but it just seemed a little strange. A little connectivity there between the histories of the people who are in charge of our State Department and where our forces get deployed. I don't know. I understand that this is not new for Marco Rubio. Obviously, he has been a very aggressive opponent of Venezuela for years and wanted to be involved. I think he was even involved in the original attempt to go ahead and topple the government previously. So maybe this is just his hobby horse personally, but it seems to have some level of connection there. Hey guys, if you've been watching this show for a while, then you know that around here we encourage something that conservatives usually don't do. Winning. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to keep it going, then head over to Blaze TV. They have the behind the scenes content, exclusives, and documentaries that you're just not going to see anywhere else. So go to blazetv.com/Auron and subscribe today. The promo code is AURON and you'll save $20 right now off the annual plan.